How did Gymshark win 2020? Consumer research. They worked with a test to learn more about their audience's changing habits, then pivoted their business to meet those needs. Visit askatest.com and use fast, accurate consumer research to get ahead. It's growth without guesswork. Welcome to All Killer No Filler. It is Friday. I'm Eric Dick, and today we're talking the art and science of YouTube ads with Ryan McKenzie, co-founder and CMO of Canada's second fastest growing startup, Tru Earth, along with Pilothouse head of Google, Saul Garcia, and Pilothouse lead media buyer, Jacob Geary, who's done a ton of buying on both Facebook and Google to really round out our expert stack here. Today, we're giving you a high-level preview of the in-depth workshop on scaling YouTube for e-commerce that you are invited to join free next week, March 25th and 26th at 1 p.m. You can just go to save your seat at dtcnews.link/YouTube, dtcnews.link/YouTube. If you're watching this live, that landing page isn't set up yet, so don't go there just yet, but it'll be ready ASAP. Now, Ryan is a friend of mine, and he is a CMO spending close to 7 figures a month. Now, Ryan, I just wanted to ask, in your mind, as a CMO, when you're spending close to 7 figures a month, where does YouTube sit in your sort of ad stack?
I mean, our big three are obviously Facebook, Google search, and then I actually think that YouTube's probably number two most of the time, but we are heavy in search as well as shopping, but it's basically our second biggest driver.
Very cool. And so what are you seeing on the whole Google suite of things? Where does it usually sit in the priority with other Google products?
I think it's growing quite a bit, especially for brands that want to scale. Brands that are pushing their spend on Facebook definitely have to add a YouTube component to their marketing. I think that right now for brands that are using YouTube, we've grown from about 5% to about 25% of the total spend on Google. Yeah.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty aligned with us actually, yeah. Too. That's yeah.
Very cool. What do you say about that, Jacob?
Yeah, no, for sure. Same. Even when looking into the Facebook stuff, any of our clients starting to run YouTube, we're seeing that holistic, the gains pretty quickly. And now more so than ever, like the past, 6 months or so.
Very cool. There's just so many. I just know I can speak from personal experience. Like I'm on YouTube a fair amount. I really, it's a big source of entertainment, more so than television at this point for me. And so I understand. And I guess with the pandemic, the traffic there has just really spiked. One thing that I'm trying to understand is, do you think attention is actually cheaper on YouTube? Do you think do you think it's cheaper on YouTube than it is on Facebook video, for instance?
I mean, I think it's definitely a high quality placement that, it's cross web. There's YouTube placements on tons of websites, articles, things like that. And because it's that trusted platform, people recognize the YouTube video player, I guess, where the ad plays. So you compare that to something like a Google display ad that sometimes can get tied into sketchier websites. You can get some of the placements are a little wonky sometimes if you're using the dynamic ads. I think there's that advantage in YouTube. So yeah, it's definitely evolving as well in that sense.
I think another thing that YouTube has that Facebook doesn't have is that most people that are on Facebook are I mean, from my experience, are going with their sound off, right? I don't know how many times I've accidentally flicked my sound on for something and then popped another video open and it screamed in my face and scared the crap out of me. But with YouTube, by default, people are watching with sound. So you have more opportunities for more aggressive pattern interrupts and sounds for keeping people engaged, as well as being able to audibly say your brand. And that's just another, the more touch points people get both visually and audibly, the more familiar they get with hearing and seeing your brand or awareness as a whole.
Yeah, they're kind of forced to view at least 5 seconds of your video before they consume their content. So you got that chance. Whereas Facebook, you're kind of, like you said, scrolling through. Sometimes it's just white noise.
And you have that opportunity that they might watch a 2-minute video as well, which is, I imagine the lengths that people watch these videos generally are longer on YouTube than on Facebook. Ryan, do you think that's true?
Yeah, I think that I'm not looking at any stats in front of me right now, and I haven't looked at it for a little while, but I think once they get past that initial drop-off period, if the video hooks you in, they have a tendency to continue watching more so than on Facebook, where they might not be in consume video mode. They might be in like scroll through pictures of friends and families, kids and cats, but YouTube, they're there to consume video.
That's true. What about CPAs then? Like, how are CPAs, across a platform like Facebook versus a platform like YouTube? Ryan, what do you on Tru Earth? How do your CPAs compare across those platforms?
Actually, right now, I would say that they're like for top of funnel, they're fairly on point. Like the numbers, I would say normally YouTube, at least on a last click attribution. Sorry, tongue getting a little tied there. Last click attribution. Typically, I see a little bit worse CPAs on YouTube than on Facebook. But when you mix in the view throughs and stuff like that, they get a lot closer. But this month, I'm finding, I was just reviewing kind of like our hero ads before this call, and they actually look pretty on point. Like there's not much differentiation.
I was just gonna say it's on how you count the conversions, but if we go by how Facebook counts conversions and when they view through 7-day click now, I would say that some of our YouTube campaigns do better than Facebook. If we go by direct click only, I would say that Facebook still outpaces YouTube right now. Maybe let's say a 2x ROAS click-through campaign on Facebook will be about a 1.1, 1.2 on YouTube for click-through only. But if we count every single conversion like Facebook does, then we're probably doing a little better.
Yeah, that definitely brings up a good point. Like YouTube, there's that holistic kind of benefit, and you get a ton of assisted conversions, especially in like your retargeting pool from YouTube. So definitely key to make sure you have your like tracking and everything, the Google environment set up correctly, because that's a huge part of YouTube just outside of the direct, conversions right away.
And how clear of a picture can you get? Like, I was wondering how quickly this would become a turf war here, just of Google and Facebook pixel battles. But like, how clear of can you get a really clear idea of like, okay, like hockey, we were talking about hockey earlier, assists and goals. Can you get like a clear picture of where YouTube fits in your funnel, or is it just always going to be a little bit of a mess?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's definitely possible to get a pretty clear idea. There's always going to be cross attribution and stuff, but YouTube is even releasing some new tools lately that help, with those assisted conversions and outlaying. By campaign, you're actually seeing 3 conversions for every direct conversion you're seeing. So, you're getting 2 other ones on another platform. You can dial into that, and then if you can tie that into your like Google Analytics reports, and there's definitely ways to break that out. But yeah.
Very cool. Okay, let's go back to creative a little bit, because the way we sort of structured our event that we're doing next week is day one, we're really going to focus on high-end creative. And one of the, I've been following Ryan for a while now. He's come on the podcast already. I harass him over Messenger on the regular. And I've been following his ads and noticed that he made an investment into some really high-end hero videos. The kind where you've got a brawny guy like walking along and telling a story and random things are happening to him. And I've noticed that he's got a very a wide variety of these. So I wanted to just sort of open the floor a little bit and talk a little bit about your creative journey on YouTube. And maybe if you could start with like the first major hero video you attempted to make on YouTube that you did.
Yeah. So yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I think there is a misconception that people think that in order for those videos to be successful, that they need this huge high production value and they need to be funny and so on and so forth. And before we ever did one of these, I actually, what Eric is saying here, I tested this, and we've got about 10 to 12 million views on this one video on YouTube, but I tested it with like zero humor. And honestly, like knowing what I know now, the cuts weren't fast enough. There's a bunch of spots in the video that really suck as far as I'm concerned, but like I basically took the formula, and being completely transparent here, I learned this formula from the Harmon brothers, taking their courses and stuff like that. It's not a big secret. It's not really a far cry from pretty standard direct response type setups. But my point is, and my long-winded way of saying it here, is that, you know, it doesn't have to be a big budget production in order to do it. It's more about hitting all of these points and maintaining attention. So I don't know if you want me to rattle them off, or
Yeah,
do you
just
want
like,
me
I think
to...
we're going to go in depth in your presentation, and you're going to talk a little bit, give examples of how you did it in previous creatives. But I think from a high level, I think it would be awesome just to give people kind of what that formula looks like, just so they can get their minds thinking about what it would look like.
Totally. So the first thing is like a pattern interrupt. You have those first 5 seconds to catch the user's attention. Great idea to drop your brand here too, because you know you're getting 5 free seconds if they skip it. But pattern interrupt, something that's like, you know, the video that we're talking about, the original Scrappy one that we put together, there's a stop sign. You hear my voice going, stop. And it doesn't even sound like it's me because it sounds so damn good. But so you know, pattern interrupt, something that draws their attention and makes them pay attention. Next, you're going to hit them with the solution, or sorry, the problem. You want to talk about what it is that your problem or your product solves. Next is the solution. You're gonna talk about, you're gonna present your product or services and talk about why it works and how it's gonna solve that problem. You're gonna follow that with a call to action. You're gonna specifically try to get the customer to be like, click below to try our product now, blah, blah, blah. From there, you're going to go into objections and building credibility. So you're going to talk about, you're probably fairly intimate with your product. You're going to know specifically, you know, the things that people are like, oh, well, it's too expensive. Or, I mean, that's pretty common, but, or like, why, for us, it's like, why is this better than powdered laundry detergent? That comes in a cardboard box, right? Like stuff like that. So this is also a great time to put in some like featured benefits mixed with the objections and some product demo shots, as well as like building credibility and social proof, talking about how many stars your product has. I don't know, showing pictures from Instagram, social proof, and then talking about like some risk reversal stuff. So like, try the product free, risk-free 30-day trial, blah, 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 blah. And then we're going to loop back around to call to action number 2. And this is usually where most people end their video. And the problem that I find with that is that the call to action's there, the video ends, and people usually skips to the next video. The last thing you should do should actually be an outro. And this is a great place to put, sorry, let me go back. The call to action, you should specifically ask them to click your link again, click to go through and purchase, because some people think that commercials are like on TV where you have to go get it from the store. And then the last thing is the outro. So I like to put like funny blooper clips and stuff like that, just to keep the person watching the video. And, you know, sometimes those little clips make them like your product even more, and let that hang for a few seconds. So they get giving the person an opportunity to actually click through. And that's awesome. The 7-step.
And you can do this, like, even just we'll post some of these videos in the chat. They're actually on our landing page for the course, which you can get to at dtcnews.link/YouTube. And what's cool is you can just jump on like a free account with Lumen 5, you know, or any of these sort of AI video makers or something like that, where you can pull stock footage, like even just your video, like literally it's stock footage of of plastic bottles in the you know, the dump and things like that. And so, yeah, I think you just can't overestimate like how you can go out and make these kind of videos on a budget, basically.
Totally. Yeah. And like, I mean, we basically went to those stock video footage sites, grabbed the stuff that we needed when we were storyboarding it. And then, you know, I went to like Walmart and like ran down the aisle trying to like videotape plastic jugs, or like we just shot some basic scrappy stuff with iPhones to fill the rest in.
Nice. I just want to, like, when you create those videos, do you then try them on Facebook as well, and do they work as well? Or is this direct response kind of longer style really suited to YouTube?
Dude, it's really funny because almost everybody that I talk to tells me you should run shorter video ads. You should run shorter ads. You should make a shorter version of that. And what's wild about it is the long version almost always kills the short version on Facebook. And it sucks because you can't get Instagram placements and whatever. But what I've noticed is the longer that you can have somebody watching these videos and paying attention, the higher the more likely they are to convert. And that all those ads that were successful on YouTube were also successful on Facebook.
That's
Yeah, I think a key around that too is really making that first few seconds, you know, the attention grabber. And then they're going to watch it as long as they want. And you got more time to convince them on a longer video, right?
Yeah,
nice.
I
Saul,
totally
do you see
agree.
the same thing with these hero style videos as well with the accounts that you run?
It's actually, I was just going to comment. I think, like I said before we started, each product is particular to itself, and each product is different and what they need. I think that particularly in what we're doing in-house, we're not using a lot of that scrappy content. We're more into the polished stuff because we had tested the scrappy stuff following the same formula. And for some reason, it wasn't working as well. And I think it has to do also with the consumer and what you're trying to sell. Like Ryan said, not everything has to be funny. If you're trying, like, I don't know, one of our brands, like the, diamond watches, you can't really be funny with that. You're more into, like, showing style and luxury and quality type thing, differentiated with other watch brands, lifestyle stuff. And then, but with the blanket company, you can be funny because it lends itself to be funny, and that demographic likes that type of thing, right? It's more like family oriented, dog and picket fence. So it works when you're funny. And in JBW, we were trying to be funny about those watches. It will be just like kind of awkward, and people, it doesn't go with the brand, and it doesn't go with the people you're trying to reach, which is more important than the brand, right? And then the hero videos, like what Ryan said. So on we have a 3-minute video that's then you got to cut it right into different sections, and it works. But the 3-minute video, when we've ran it as a YouTube ad, the 3 full minutes, it's beat the subsections of that same video in the 30-second edits for that particular. So like the creative is made into this long form 3 minutes, and versus its own edits, it always wins.
It's self-selecting. The longer you watch, just the more indoctrinated you get. Every second that you spend like enjoying that video, and every second that you watch it is you're like, you could skip it, so you must be enjoying it, right? So I think it just must build that affinity really, really well.
Yeah. It's like a Todd Brown 40-page sales letter. If the person gets to the bottom of that shit, they are buying.
Yeah, that's it. They are pot committed, I think the term is.
That brought me back to university, that sales letter.
Ryan, I wanted to ask, so we talked a little bit about the scrappy creative that you created, but more recently you decided to, at the point, that you guys are scaling, that it was really worth it to invest in a series of higher end, more expensive creatives. Can you talk a little bit about that process, like how you went about finding the right person to work with this stuff on, and how you thought about the budget? Because I imagine it's a pretty penny to put down for that much high end creative.
Yeah, it's not cheap. Like for us, there's more to it than just the conversion side of things. Like it's a bit more memorable, and there's a bit more like links to the brand side of things, which I think was really important for us. But when we originally, it's funny, I took I haven't taken any courses for a long time because I realized that I should just pay people to do the things that I don't know how to do. But I paid for the Harmon Brothers course because I thought I need to get better at video creative. And I actually met the person that wound up doing our videos inside of the Harmon Brothers community. And he gave me kind of like, he showed me, or he had posted a video for review that was, I think, for Russell Brunson, one of his products. And I reached out to him, and I'm like, that was really good, man. Like, curious what it's like to work with you. And we kind of fleshed it out. It was pre-COVID, and wound up delaying it because I wasn't even, this was like, I was supposed to send him the first deposit. And when the world shut down, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to send somebody that, halfway across the continent a bunch of money. So we waited a bit. And then in summertime of last year, we produced the first one. And it turned out really well. But what, like, I can kind of share with you what the process looks like. So what we do to start out with is I usually kind of throw a couple ideas in his direction, and he kind of throws a couple ideas in my direction. We flesh out like, 6 or 8 different things, and we kind of figure out which one we like the best, kind of rough raw concept. And then he'll go back and he'll write a rough script. So kind of all the main like direct response points. Like he obviously goes through all of our reviews, and we know what all of our kind of like objections are and kind of like the emotional triggers that make people want to purchase. And he bases a lot of it on that. And then once we have a rough script that we like, we basically bring in comedians. So I think he has a couple guys that are like improv specialists, and like that's a really easy way to get somebody to review your script. Get some local improv guys, or there's people on Fiverr that'll write. Like I was just looking the other day, there's like 20 people that write quote unquote Harmon Brothers or funny sales letters style videos. So like it's relatively inexpensive to have somebody just go through it and like create a bunch of jokes, and then you can kind of determine which ones you think are going to work in the end. And then from there we cast. He brings a bunch of different people together. They shoot their they read part of the script, presents it to us. We choose who we want to be in the script, and then they film. Usually there's about a day of live filming, and then there's a couple of weeks of editing, and we launch. That's the process.
And how many pieces do you end up kind of launching, or over this period have you launched?
So right now we launched 2 in January, and we launched 1 in September. And it takes about 90 days for us to turn a whole piece around. So we're starting to look at launching 1 every second month. So like at least for the near future. It is expensive, but they just work so well that and what's cool about this too is I'm starting to extend the assets a little bit. So we'll also, maybe film like a hero's journey or some sort of like behind the scenes creative, or like the first video with Talitha, she had a really interesting story about how she adopted her brother's kids and crazy struggle, family of 10. And she just told her story, and the ad worked extremely well as a retarget after the first one. So, there's lots of really interesting things you can do if you do hire an actor or an actress, and you make sure that they get the product enough that they can try before your day of shooting, because you're going to pay per day to the union or to their agency. So if whoever's filming, whether it's you or somebody else, you can probably squeeze some other potential assets out of that time if you do so wisely.
Nice. And then how long do one of these big anchor videos last for? Like, what's the life cycle? That's the other cool thing I think about YouTube, I guess, right? That all of these videos do the amount of times that my daughter makes me go watch the Geico Rakuten videos of it's like a puppet raccoon. She just loves watching these videos. So a lot of these things, and your creative will have a ton of rewatch value for some people, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, it totally depends. Like our Real Men Do Laundry came out the gate super duper hot in January, and it actually had, I think, a higher viral potential. But Facebook kind of got a bit screwed up in February, and it burned out a little quicker. So I think it got to, I don't know, it's probably sitting close to 20 million views.
Wow.
Where are Things You Should Never Mix with Water, I don't know. I think it's over 40 million. I'm not sure. It lasted a little bit longer, but it also happened in September when everybody was starting to roll out their Facebook conversion API things. And there was a bunch of weird sketchy. There's just the only thing you can predict with Facebook is that something's going to screw up. But we spend probably more than a lot of people do. I've talked to somebody that runs a lot of the Harmon Brothers ads, and they typically see about a year of traction out of their videos. Ours are still running, all of them, but not Things You Should Never Mix with Water. I spent $100,000 in a day on it in September on Facebook. So I didn't hit that with Real Men Do Laundry, but I'm of the mind that it's feast or famine. And when I can feast, I feast my face off,
Do you show most of those videos on the channel as well, or do you keep them unlisted and just typically keep them in ads?
So I usually test first. Sorry. So yeah, like I'll test, I'll do like a testing period on Facebook to see which creative. So I usually do 3 hooks for each video, and then I'll test all 3 hooks, like not the text, but the actual pattern interrupt at the beginning. And I test those to see which one gets the most traction. And I try to put that one on YouTube. And then I'll publish that to the page and usually pin it. But yeah, like I want the most effective one to be the one that's listed on our page, but yeah, we do wind up posting them.
Sweet. Yeah. Cause that's like another big advantage, YouTube versus Facebook. You can use your posts from your Facebook page and it can get all this social engagement, but building those, views and likes through an ad on your organic, like YouTube channel, like videos, those are showing up in the search results, like first page as well. So totally. You build that organic traffic pretty quick too. Yeah.
Anything to add there, Saul? What are you seeing in terms of these? Because I know we're doing some higher end creatives with one of our accounts right now. You're seeing about the same life cycle.
Yeah, and the other thing, when Ryan mentioned testing for 3 different hooks, we generally test between 5 and 10 different angles. So we try to have on all our videos to have different type of intro in the first 5 seconds, like Ryan said. But what I was just thinking is, and I think, I don't know, not many people touch on this, but we've been playing around with, on YouTube, you get a 10 character call to action and a 15 character title on your videos for when you turn them into ads. And I don't think people get creative with those much. Everyone does a whole buy now or shop now or click here, whatever. And we've been doing even things like surprise offer for an ongoing discount. Just by having surprise offer as a call to action, that has raised that particular batch of videos conversion rate quite a bit.
That's
same thing more on brand things like the blanket thing saying cozy up instead of buy now or shop now. We just say cozy up, and click-through rate, like it just click-through rates, conversion rates have gone up.
Yeah, it's still a blue button, right? They know it's
yes.
That's where they click. Yeah.
How many words is drop a load? Drop loads of laundry, and I deserve to have my background fall down. I need to get that fixed.
That's too much, I think.
That's too much.
Too many characters.
Just got kicked off of Facebook for that comment. Anyway, Saul, back to you. While we got you talking here, while I set up my my green screen again, why don't you tell us a little when you take over an account? Because I think as an agency, we a lot of the times, although this is changing, we'll go in the door with Facebook and Instagram. But very quickly, once they meet you, when they get a sense of what we can do on the Google side, we come on there. And I want to say, what are your first steps you take when you take over a client's YouTube account?
Well, first we see, how much they're spending, obviously, how much they've been spending historically, and how, right? Like what's been their main objective to spend that money? Have they been spending on things like reach and that kind of like soft metric stuff, or have they been trying actually for direct response conversion campaigns? Then we look at how much creative they have and how much creative we can get, or if we need to support them with that. Because one of the things that we do is we do test a lot of creative. Like I said, we let's say we put a batch of 10 ads in there, and we see after, let's say 100 clicks or a few days, we can tell which ads are getting traction. You'll usually have a few conversions on some of the ads, and you can pause the ones that have had enough run, and you can see people are watching them. They're just not like getting excited by them. So we look into the creative capacity, how much creative they have already in there, how much creative we can reuse in our first tests, and then their audiences, right? What audiences they've been using. If they've been approved, for example, for customer match lists, those kind of things that not everyone gets. that if you're a bigger spender or you're like a Google partner, you can get, because those help. You can stack audiences like you do on Facebook. And we've seen that stacking like affinity with in-market audiences works good. If you have already a good SEM campaign, you can go in there, you can go to analytics, you can see who was your highest converting audiences, and then you can target those again on prospecting YouTube stuff. So we look at audiences, we look at what their original bidding systems were, and we look at how much creative we can get, and if we can get more creative, and how fast we can get it. That will be the first things.
Nice.
We're also starting to explore more like influencer strategies and whitelisting, and them posting sponsored posts on YouTube creator channels, and then you taking that and using it in ads. And
that's interesting. I hadn't really heard of the whitelisting going on YouTube as a platform. It's a no-brainer though for creators there.
Yeah, it's not really like integrated as a tool to creator channels as far as I know. They can like whitelist you so that you don't get taken down or whatever, your videos, but yeah, there's basically like ways you can get sponsored posts through third-party tools and stuff like that as well.
You could also just request that they grant you access to that video to promote it too. I've tried. I haven't actually had a lot of success with that. I've tested it once before, but I tested it once, literally, total.
Yeah, it hasn't worked for all our clients either, but we have seen a couple where it's kind of like not so much them posting it, but us reusing their content has been successful as well. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, we're pretty much wrapped up here for our Friday session. I wanted to ask just one last question about scaling YouTube. I know, like, what are the, when it comes to Facebook, you're stacking audiences, you're getting that right creative, and then you're really trying to hit the gas. I understand it's a fairly similar mindset with YouTube, but what are the critical mindsets for scale on YouTube versus something like Facebook, Saul?
I still consider YouTube like a part of the Google family. So I tend to be a little more cautious when I make changes. If things are going well, obviously you want to add budget to it, but there's bidding. So for example, on YouTube, there's no, for example, no target ROAS objectives. You can't set your campaigns for target ROAS. So you have maximize conversions as one of the bidding systems, right? So if you give the system, let's say $10,000 a day on max conversions, it's gonna use them. It's gonna go through them, and a lot of the time it's not gonna get you that number of conversions. So if things are working, we tend to add more spend, but I just do it more cautiously. I don't do it like one day to the other, because also you can see real results on Google from YouTube. On my experience, take at least 48 hours for you to see what really is going on. And for some of our clients, it takes 10 days. Like we still see conversions coming in 10 days later.
Makes sense on those long views, right?
Yeah. So I would say, and use this as a cliche, but with Facebook, you can do ski jumps all the time. And I think with Google, you have to be more like a plane taking off.
It's a good metaphor.
Nice.
Is that what you see, Ryan? Like, do you feel like are you getting sort of maximum juice out of Google right now? Do you have plans in 2021 to grow the YouTube presence?
Yeah, I mean, we plan on, well, first of all, we plan on growing organic more as well, because that, earned media is awesome. But yeah, from a scaling perspective, like, I'm not the one actually running the day-to-day on the account, but same kind of thing that Saul's mentioned is that, like, it's, hey, can we spend more money on this particular campaign? That audience is doing really well, and it's limited by budget or whatever. So adjusting it to the bottom of their recommendation and giving it a few days to kind of find its legs and make sure you're not just scaling your spend and not actually scaling your leads or sales. So it's, I mean, again, I'm not, the actual implementation is not my expertise. However, I've definitely noticed that you have to have a little bit more patience. And there's a 7-day, like we find that up to 7 days, we're seeing additional sales come through. So it's not like on Facebook, I'm just like actively pulling levers and turning up budget and not really concerning myself with the impact, but it definitely feels like there's a little bit more allowing of the algorithm to find its legs with the changes that you implement.
And we all love to look in the iOS 14 crystal ball, which is imminent. Who knows, even by the time this podcast comes out here. But, most of the attention is on Facebook, I think, or most of the attention that I read, D-Dang and my peer group, a lot of people are talking about the Facebook ecosystem. But do we have any thoughts on how things might be affected in Google, how they might be affected differently or less so maybe in the Google ad environment?
My initial thought is like, all you can really do now is start to understand the whole environment of YouTube and the assisted conversions, how it's playing in through Google Analytics. And, if some of that data does disappear when the prompt comes out for iOS 14 users, you have those like benchmarks already, at least. But yeah, I have no idea in terms of specifics that are coming out right now for YouTube specifically. So
cool. Anyone else with any final words on iOS 14?
Right now, Google's got the wait and see. They just sent an email actually about that after the wait and see one, there was a new one that said you might see some conversion numbers drop, but we're doing as best as possible to keep everything like tracking properly. It's not as bad as Facebook because it's not in app type thing, and there's the keyword element, and people still have to go visit a site, and it's weird too because Google just came out with that whole like we're not going to track people anymore, and so I
saw that.
Yeah,
they're moving to a more category more category kind of specific.
I don't know if it's just a way of saying like we're not doing it, but we're doing it.
That sounds like Google. Nice. Well, I know we got to run here, so I just want to invite everyone one last time. Next week, it's a free webinar. We're going to be giving away all of Ryan's amazing Tru Earth creative secrets, all of Saul's amazing campaign tips and tricks to make sure that you're not blowing your money inefficiently. It's going to be fun. They're always fun. We're expecting a couple hundred people. I hope everyone gets a lot of it. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to come on today, and we will see you all next week.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
You guys.
Yeah.
One last time, you can go to dtcnews.link/YouTube and sign up for free for this amazing 2-day webinar with the likes of Ryan McKenzie. This is our first all Canadian, or no, we've had this is our first external person Canadian that we've had on for this. So I'm very excited to represent the great White North.
My mustache isn't as good as Van Oak's. I'll try to grow it for next week, but I don't know
if you could step up. This is the outro now. This is what we do now. After you mentioned about how we do awkward outros now. So
see who drops off, and then just keep talking.
Off. We just get that twist that mustache up.
They're only like a millimeter. It hurts.
I saw him posting his wheelie Crocs the other day on his trip to Geek.
Isn't that awesome?
So I love that he has wheelie Crocs. But anyway, nice. All right, thanks guys.
Sweet. Yeah. Thanks.
Peace.